I have often noticed that when people say they have been hurt, what they usually mean is not simply that something painful happened, but that something painful touched a place they were desperately trying to protect. There is a subtle difference there, and it makes all the difference in the world. For most of us live with the quiet hope that one day we might become immune to life, that we might arrive at a state where nothing can wound us, where criticism loses its sting, where rejection no longer penetrates the heart. We imagine this as strength, we imagine it as wisdom, and yet I would like to suggest that this desire to become untouchable is itself the source of much of our suffering. When you look closely, you will see that pain does not arise merely because something happens, but because there is resistance to what happens. Pain is not simply sensation, it is sensation plus the demand that the sensation should not be there. And so when someone speaks harshly to you, when you are misunderstood, abandoned, or betrayed, the hurt is magnified by the thought, this should not be happening to me, or I should not be feeling this. The wound is not only the event, but the refusal to allow the event to be what it is. From early childhood, we are taught, often without words, that some feelings are acceptable and others are not. We learn to hide our anger, our fear, our grief, our jealousy, even our tenderness. And whatever we hide does not disappear. It sinks below the surface and waits. Then, years later, someone says a sentence, makes a gesture, turns away at just the wrong moment, and suddenly the pain feels enormous, disproportionate, overwhelming. We say, they hurt me. But what really happened is that they touched something that was already there. You see, other people cannot insert pain into you like a knife. They can only press on a bruise, and the bruise was formed long before the moment of contact. This is why one remark devastates you while another rolls off without consequence. It is not the remark, it is the place it lands. And if this is so, then the strategy of trying to control the world so that it never presses on your bruises is doomed from the start. Life is too creative, too unpredictable, too alive to cooperate with such a demand. Many people respond to this realization by building armor. They become emotionally distant, ironic, detached. They tell themselves they no longer care, and for a while it seems to work. The sharpness of pain dulls. But what also dulls is joy, intimacy, and meaning. For armor does not discriminate. It blocks everything. You may become safer, but you also become smaller. Protected, but confined. A fortress, yes, but also a prison. There is another way, though it is rarely spoken of because it sounds at first like madness. What if the point is not to avoid being hurt at all? What if the point is to become so honest with yourself, so intimate with your own inner life, that nothing which arises there is foreign or frightening? What if true invulnerability has nothing to do with hardness and everything to do with openness? To understand this, you must see how much of your suffering comes from what you do not wish to feel. Shame, grief, fear, loneliness, these are treated as intruders. We distract ourselves from them, analyze them away, spiritualize them, or bury them beneath busyness. But buried emotions do not rest peacefully. They ferment. They turn into anxiety, resentment, and a vague sense that something is wrong, even when everything seems to be going well. There is an old psychological insight which says that what is unconscious does not stop existing. It simply directs your life from behind the scenes, and you call the result fate. The patterns that repeat in your relationships, the same conflicts with different faces, the same disappointments in new disguises, these are not accidents. They are messages. They are signals from parts of yourself that have not yet been met with awareness. And here is the great turning point. The moment you stop running from these inner experiences and begin to meet them directly, they start to change. Not because you are fixing them, but because you are finally allowing them to complete themselves. Emotions, like waves, need space to rise and fall. When you dam them, they stagnate. When you let them move, they pass. This requires a courage that looks from the outside like vulnerability. It means feeling what you feel without immediately trying to justify it, explain it, or escape it. It means sitting with grief long enough for it to soften into sadness, and sadness long enough for it to reveal the love that was always inside it. It means allowing fear to be present without treating it as a command to flee. This is not indulgence, it is honesty. Most people avoid this because they believe that if they open themselves fully to pain, they will be destroyed by it. But this belief is based on a misunderstanding of who you are. You think you are the pain. You think you are the emotion. In reality, you are the space in which the emotion appears. Pain is an experience. You are the awareness of the experience. And awareness, by its very nature, is not damaged by what it observes. This is why those who have done this inner work often appear strangely resilient. They still feel pain, they still cry, they still grieve, but the pain moves through them. It does not harden into bitterness. It does not crystallize into identity. They do not say, "I am broken." They say, "This hurts," and they allow it to hurt. And then, in its own time, it changes. There is a deep misunderstanding about suffering that runs through our culture. We imagine that all suffering is meaningless, that it is a sign of failure, that it must be eliminated as quickly as possible, but there is a kind of suffering that is informative, a kind that appears precisely when something false is no longer sustainable. Depression, for example, often arrives when the story you have been living can no longer be believed. It shuts down your old ways of coping so that something truer might emerge. If you treat this only as an enemy, you miss its message. If you listen, gently, patiently, you may discover that what you called an illness was also an initiation, a descent that made room for a deeper ascent, not back to who you were before, but forward into someone more whole. So let us return to the promise implied in the title of this reflection. Is it possible that nothing can hurt you anymore once you understand this? Yes, but not because life becomes gentle, and not because people suddenly behave better. It is because you stop confusing pain with destruction. You stop treating every wound as evidence that something has gone wrong. You realize that what you are is larger than anything that can happen to you. When someone criticizes you, you listen. If there is truth there, you learn. If there is not, it passes like noise. When someone leaves, you grieve, but you do not collapse, because you were never held together by their presence alone. When life surprises you with loss, you feel the loss fully, and you let it change you rather than harden you. This is the strange paradox. The more willing you are to be hurt, the less power hurt has over you. The more open you are, the less there is to defend. When you have nothing to hide from yourself, no accusation can truly wound you. When you have already faced your own shadows, no one else can expose them. And something else happens along the way. As you stop defending yourself against life, you begin to trust it. Not because it always gives you what you want, but because you see that even its difficulties are part of a larger movement toward wholeness. You stop asking for guarantees. You stop demanding safety. And in that surrender, you discover a deeper security than any armor could provide. This does not make you passive. It makes you present. It does not remove discernment. It removes fear. You still say no when no is needed. You still protect what is genuinely fragile. But you no longer protect an image of yourself that was never real to begin with. So if there is one thing worth understanding, it is this. You were never meant to be invulnerable. You were meant to be alive, sensitive, responsive, open to experience. And the strength you seek does not come from avoiding pain, but from knowing that you can feel it without being undone. When this is seen, not merely understood intellectually, but felt, you may notice a quiet shift. Life continues to happen. People continue to be unpredictable. Loss and change still come. And yet there is a background of peace, a sense that whatever arises can be met. Nothing needs to be excluded. Nothing needs to be feared. This is not the end of pain. It is the end of the fear of pain. And that makes all the difference.